Welcome to Parent Power Hour. It's a chance for parents to come together and share their experiences and empower each other. So today we are talking about a special milestone in parents' lives, the promotion to grandparent. Woo. From helping the next generation grow up to cheering on your own child as they tackle parenthood. We know there's a lot that goes into being a grandma or grandpa. Grandparents' Day, that is celebrated every September. So we asked some familiar faces to come together to talk about what it's like. Here we are. Yay. We have Mary Bear, News4Jack's retired evening anchor. I love it. Yes.
Retired and a grandparent.
And a grandparent. And we have Bruce Hamilton, our morning show anchor.
I just want to say I'm here as my wife's proxy. She's the one that's old enough to be a grandparent, not me.
Of course.
Oh, right.
And you may not recognize Christy. Christy Lendry helps us behind the scenes. She is our local sales manager. Christy, thanks for coming and bearing with us the talk.
Oh, you're welcome. This is fun. Yes.
Yeah.
Glad to be a part.
Now, this is really cool. You have one grandchild.
Right.
Who is here. Bruce and Christy, you have like a million. You've got eight. You've got seven.
Wow. 7 as of September, yes.
And they're all over the place.
Yes.
Oh, you're so lucky to have so many.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that. Do you think it might come?
Yeah.
Come on.
Sure. Do you guys have names? I want to address you properly. I know we talk all the time when we work together.
I am Gaga.
Gaga.
I am Gaga, and I wear
Lady
it.
Gaga.
I'm very
Lady
proud
Gaga.
to be old Lady Gaga.
Old Lady Gaga. What are you? Who are you, Bruce?
So I'm Pop-Up. So my dad's name was Pop-Up.
Oh, that's sweet.
The grandkids. On my maternal side, it was Pop-Up. It was Opa on the paternal side, which was German. So it was supposed to be Lolly and Pop, but I wanted to be Pop-Up. Like my dad.
Lolly and Pop.
So Christy, my wife, she wanted to be Lolly.
Right.
But when we found out that we were going to have our first grandchild, and the way we found out, it was Pop-Up and Lolly.
Oh, I think it's adorable.
Pop and Lolly.
She wanted Lollipop.
Yeah.
Yes, that makes sense.
We get that.
Christy, what about you? What is your name?
I'm Cece.
Cece. How did that come about?
It was my son who had the first grandchild, and he just said, you know, we've got a lot of grandparents. We're a blended family, so there's a lot going on. And he said, you know, we just want it to be kind of off of your name instead of Grandma Christy or, you know, Grandma Brian or Granddaddy Brian. It's Cece. So
Cece.
easy to say.
Really cute.
I liked it. I'm like, good, because
And the kids came up with that? Wait, who came up with this?
My son.
Your son? See?
Yep.
Yeah, of course.
My son.
That's good.
Is that what happened with you?
Well, it's funny because I was supposed to be, well, you know, you say, I want the name. We were joking around, Glamma, I thought would be so cute. And somebody, I don't know, some person in Hollywood has that. Who is it? I can't think of who it is right now, but I thought it was adorable. But you don't get to really name it. You know, it's either your kids or the child comes up with it. So Gaga ended up being, I mean, I seriously think it was Sebastian coming up with it. It's crazy. And then the Lady Gaga, that might have been Lizzie Bear, my daughter. So that might have been Lizzie coming up with it. So,
So Sebastian, he's 13 years old now, your grandson.
Yeah.
How did you first find out, like when you saw him for the first time, what was that like? We got to start there.
You're gonna make me cry. So what's cool is we have a really great connection. There's just one, you know, and I've been fortunate enough to be there with him the whole time. When he came out, I was right there, and I got to be with Lizzie in the birthing room, and then I always say, and I tell him this, I'm like, I was the first one to take your picture. And I mean, I wish, I don't know where it is now, but I was right there taking that very first picture when he's there. And he's like going, and his little eyes opened and he looked at me and I'm like, oh, I mean, instant love. It was just total love.
Is it the same as seeing your daughter for the first time, or is it different?
It's different because I'm a different person. So I think, yeah, you're just as in love. Absolutely. But when I had Lizzie, you know, I was so much younger, and it was my child. It was the first time. I'd never experienced this before. So I was in love, but I was also kind of bewildered, I think, and trying to, I was not a domestic, am not a domestic person at all. So it was really hard to understand, oh, how do you put the clothes on her? It was embarrassing. There are many stories that are like,
Oh.
Yeah, but she somehow survived, so that's great.
Bruce, when you first saw your first grandchild, what was that like?
So it was amazing. So let me go back to how I found out
Okay.
about Asher, who is now 6. So I was kind
He's
of
the
vacuous.
oldest?
He's the oldest.
At 6.
He is the oldest. He's Jeff and Jackass. So we're over there and it's Christmas. And, you know, they're all excited about us opening a present. I was like, okay, so we're going to open a present. I don't like to get gifts. So they hand us a box, and I hand it to Christy. I'm like, go ahead, you open the box. And there's a little onesie in there. And it says, Lolly and Pop-Up. And I'm like, what are you giving me a onesie for? And Christy, you know, slap across the chest. And I'm like, what are you hitting me for? She goes, they're going to have a baby. And I'm like, you're going to what? So I'm like, oh my God. And then inside, you know, they'd had the ultrasound. And there's this little tiny peanut. And they said, that's Asher, that's going to be your grandson.
Wow.
And I'm actually a pretty emotional guy, which people who watch Barbara wouldn't guess that, because I'm so sarcastic and sardonic. I started to cry.
Yeah.
Really?
I was so excited, yeah.
Oh my gosh, Christy, same experience or?
You know, this was during the middle of COVID. So, when I found out, it was right before COVID. So they gave me, my son came to visit, and we were living on the West Coast at the time, and they were on the East Coast. And he came in, and we were doing kind of our normal, like, sightseeing things, and he said, you know, Melissa, my daughter-in-law, wants to be on the phone with you too. We've got a little gift for you. And I just thought, great, you know, something from Nashville, Tennessee. And I opened it up, and it was gummy bears that were champagne gummy bears. And I'm thinking, okay, well, everybody, I love champagne. And he said, yeah, we're giving this to you because right now, what Melissa has is about the size of a gummy bear. And so at first it took me a few seconds to catch on, and I was like, whoa, wait, you're having a baby? Oh my gosh. So it was just.
Did you jump up and down? Did you cry? What were those?
Yeah, it was very emotional. Didn't cry, but it was just like surreal. And I'm sitting there trying to think, okay, whoa, now, you know, and then I realized I am in Montana, and they're in Nashville at this time. That's too far away. So right then I started thinking, time to get back.
Moving, right?
Wow.
To the East Coast. So,
yeah. So, but now that you're here, all of the grandkids, are they all scattered around?
They're scattered, so we have 2, and the third one that'll be born in September in Nashville. We've got 2 here in our area, thank goodness, and then 2 in Orlando.
Okay.
So yeah, we're scattered across, but it's the East Coast, so that's why we needed to be back on the East Coast.
How do you juggle all that? To see that, when do you get to see them?
It's a lot of FaceTime, especially all of our grandchildren are COVID babies. So the first one was born in May of 2020. So your experience of getting to see your grandchild,
You wouldn't have had that
did not
experience?
get to. And my first thing, I could see him through the glass door. And then the first time getting to breathe air was 12 feet apart with masks on. So the first time I held her, she was a year old. And that was back during 2020, 2021, when everybody was so scared of COVID.
That seems so long ago, doesn't it?
It does, but that was my experience, initiation into grandparenthood.
And then when
So-
you finally got to hug.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yes. That was emotional because, you know, out of all the FaceTime, and you don't want to just say, here, you know, come here and you're a stranger, you know, you know, I have pictures of it. It was on her time, and I was like, she's letting me hold her. She's letting me, and she's a year old. So it was, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to cry, and then she's going to get upset. I can't cry, you know, because she's a year old. Yeah. So
She gets it at this point.
Yeah,
Stranger
yeah.
danger.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
obviously that worked itself out.
It did, and it was, I have to say, to be a grandparent virtually was difficult, but they did a phenomenal job because it was almost daily. It was almost daily FaceTiming, and You know, and back then, during those times, no one knew. No one really knew how, you know, what it would be and the effect of it with the germs, and it was interesting. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Thank goodness we had FaceTime, though. At least we had that.
Yeah, yeah. So
geez.
no more being there present at the birth and that type of thing. So this one in September, I'm going the end of September, and he'll be 3 weeks old. So
Okay.
that'll be cool.
Yeah. Now, Bruce, we were talking earlier. Your grandchildren are all scattered around the state.
Yeah.
How do you make time and figure out schedules and go and see them? And what is that like? Is that a struggle? Is it?
So my family, we're a virtual Brady Bunch. Okay, so we're a blended family too. I had 4 boys. Christy has 3 girls. So, you know, I'm used to juggling. And there was a time, you know, after I'd gotten divorced, that I knew how to make time. I knew how to use the phone. I knew how to, you know, use FaceTime and things like that. I know how to juggle things. I know how to, you know, balance the different family situations.
You adapted.
So I adapted, you know, and I know how to do that with the grandkids too. So Christy has 2 girls who are here. Emily, although she's going away to college, she's lived with us. My boys are scattered. 2 are in Central Florida, 2 are in South Florida, and we just make the time, you know, and there's always been an open line of communication. Working in this business, I have had the chance to do amazing things. But when people ask me, what's the most amazing thing in your life? And I say it's family. And family is my priority. And because of that, and because I'm so blessed, I know that it's important to keep in touch and do things. So I talk to the kids and the grandkids so much during the course of the week. We make time no matter what we're doing. So there's an open line of communication. We talk to the kids. We make sure, even if there's distance, that they know where we are, who we are, what we're doing, no matter what.
And you know, Mary, you and I talked about that open line of communication. You and Sebi, at 13, you guys are like right there.
Oh, I make sure that, I mean, if I can't, well, when we're together physically, which I get to pick him up, like I pick him up for school today, and I'm taking him to violin tomorrow, and then Friday I think I'm picking him up again, and but I'll grab him, you know, he's 13, so he's like right here, which is crazy, but I'll go, dude, and I'll just grab his shoulders and go, look at me, look at me, look at me. I am your Gaga, don't you ever forget that. And so the other day I was telling you, I'm like, when I'm really, really old, and I'm getting old, but when I'm really, really old, I need you to take me to the movies. Take me to the movies, take me somewhere. I just always have to be with you occasionally. Just, you know, let's have that open communication. And you can tell me anything. So I try to keep that communication open. I know he doesn't tell me everything, but I want him to know that I'm there and I won't judge him. And you know, he might get in trouble with his mom, but I'm not gonna be, you know, biting his head off. Like mom needs to be the disciplinarian. I'm not a disciplinarian, so I'm kind of the soft cushion.
And roles. I mean, this is a great transition. How do you determine what your role is? Do you decide, do you have to have a conversation with your children, or do you tiptoe? How do you navigate that?
I think Lizzie and I have managed to kind of navigate it just gently. I think that's how it feels like to me. I've never ever said, you know, I'm not going to do that. Well, no, that's not true. I will ask her specifically, especially now. She's a grown woman. She's you know, she's a mother. She is a strong businesswoman. She's very bright and intelligent, and she understands, you know, what her son's strengths and weaknesses are and where we need to be, you know, how do we balance him and help him balance and help nurture him. And she knows that I want to have, and Marty, my husband, Pep, he's Pep. That, yeah, Gaga and Pep, that we have a role too in helping parent this child. But it is from the guide, you know, we help with education. We're helping nurture that part while she's working. And I think we try to talk a lot about it, and just, I really try to respect what she, you know, wishes, because I have to, and she has said this to me before. She's like, Mom, you're treating me like a child again. And I'm like, oh, that's right. You're not 12
It's
or 14.
hard, though, I
Yeah.
would imagine.
It is, but it's beautiful to see your child evolve into this adult and who is everything you had hoped and dreamed she would be. Even though, you know, you go through these stages, and especially I think a mom and a daughter, that's an interesting relationship anyway. And but then a little boy comes into the picture. I tell you what, I mean, grandsons are just a dream. But but she, I think, allows me, you know, to really spend that quality time with him. But she is really the disciplinarian, and I always turn to her. I'll ask her what she wishes, you know, has happened to him. So there's a lot of, you know, definitely give and take, but she is definitely the line, you know, she's the mom.
Yeah, is that the way you all handle, is that generally?
See, I trust my boys implicitly. And I've always subscribed to the fact that because we've got this open line of communication, and if there's one thing, doing what I do, I've learned to be a good listener. And there are cues that I get from them, and I know when they want me to be involved. I know when they want me to say something. I know when they're going to ask for advice, and that's my cue. I know when they want me to be involved. I know when they want me to step back. So I follow that.
Isn't that hard though?
No.
No, not even
No.
when you
No,
see
because-
and your
because
experience tells you, I gotta save them from
No,
this.
because I trust them.
Yeah.
Because I trust them. And you know what? I've seen things in watching them with their children, my grandchildren, that let me know that some of the lessons that they learned growing up have carried over. I'll give you a couple of examples. Atlas, who is the newest grandbaby for Greg and Shay. So they named her Atlas
I
because
love it.
they have this love of traveling around the globe. They just got back from London.
Oh,
They took a
With the
5-month-old
kid.
baby to London.
oh,
Really? Wow.
So the first time, they live in South Florida. The first time I'm down there, Greg says to me, "You want to take Atlas up to bed and help rock her to sleep?" I said, "Yeah." And Greg says to me, "She's got a favorite song." And I said, "What is it?" He says, "You know what? I'll have Alexa play the music in the background and you can sing her to sleep." I'm like, "Okay, you're not going to tell me what it is?" He says, "You'll recognize it." Music starts playing. It's Frank Sinatra's "Fly Me to the Moon," which is the same song that I sang every night to him
No.
when he was a baby.
Oh my
And he and Shay are standing there, and Christy's standing there. And I started to cry. But you wonder what your kids remember from when they were little.
Yeah.
And he says, "Yeah, Dad, that's a song I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
You sang to me every night."
Oh my gosh.
You know? My son, Stephen, his son is Colton. So the first night that I'm there with them, staying at their house, he says, "Let's go ahead and take Colton upstairs to bed." And he says, "I have a book that I read to him every night." He says, "Let me go get it." It's not only the same title book, The Little Red Dump Truck. It's
the actual book.
the book.
The actual book he
The actual
kept?
book. And I look in the bed, Stevie, I got to call him Steven. I can't call him Stevie. Steven. He had a Gund bear. It was a little white Gund bear, which he called Washington because George Washington or something like that. But this one's all brand new. And this Gund bear is sitting in Colton's bed. And look, he says, "Yeah, just like the one I had." I said, "Oh, because the one you had was all ragged and stuff." He goes up and reaches it out of the
There he
closet. And he says to me, he says, "No, that's mine."
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
And
my
Amy,
gosh.
Amy Lee looks at me, he says, "That one he wouldn't give to Colton, but you know what? He won't tell you, but sometimes he still sleeps in it with Ben."
Oh! I still have Mr. Green Jeans, so I've got my teddy bear still.
Wow.
But you know, I mean, you wonder what your kids remember from their childhood and what they
Yeah.
carry over.
Such
and
an
what they're-
impact that
what
you
they're
have.
going to, share with
Yeah.
their kids. And you wonder if they remember. They remember. And that's why I trust my kids implicitly, because some of the things that we shared when they were young, it's there.
Yeah. Christy, she's looking and her eyes are sparkling. I see.
Trying to remember the original of disciplining. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking.
Yeah,
Yeah, about
disciplining.
is it you? Do you?
Oh,
do
no.
you? Is it hard to not be? Hey, sweetie, you might want to try this with your daughter. Or you might want to do this.
Absolutely not. No, I'm more like Bruce. It's
trust them.
they're all incredibly career-oriented, phenomenal parents, and just so much better than I ever could have imagined being at their as a parent. And they do things so much differently now, and I just respect them so much.
We all grew up in a different age.
Such a different time. And now for me, with these, 4 and under, you know, it's so different. You know, limiting screen time and all the different things that are now. It's a lot different, but no, they are amazing.
Yeah.
We've been on vacations, we've done things, and it's, you know, get together for holidays, and they work as a team. Each, you know, the mom, the dads of each one of them, they all work as a team. You don't interfere unless I get to enjoy, and I don't have to think about it. I've never thought about it.
Which is a blessing, because not all families, you know,
I think they're
have that.
wiser than we are. I mean, because we had that experience when we were on vacation. We brought the kids, everybody, and it was interesting because, well, before we left on vacation, and you know, you see children with their tablets and their phones and everything. Well, he was given a tech-free summer. I mean, it was like, no more, not for the summer, by his mom. She came up with that.
For a 13-year-old?
Stuck with it. Wow. And he did so great. And here it was like you reconnected with this young man, because he was always gone. It was like, all of a sudden he was just gone. And
when he comes to your house,
amazing.
is it?
But Lizzie implemented that.
But what about when
Artie
he
and I
comes
were
to your,
so proud of her.
What about when he comes to your home, though? Like, is it harder to
Looks.
tell him no,
He has
no
been-
electronics? Is it hard?
No, except he's really good at going, can I borrow that?
Trying to work you a little
bit? No. Well, she did allow him to watch like a cartoon, and that's it. So he could watch cartoons. But he's a voracious reader, and he went back to reading, and so he read all summer long, which is.
But isn't it funny that it's Lizzie the one?
She's the one who did it.
Goes tech free. So you know, and that reminds me. I mean, my boys are like that too. So we went on this family reunion in Vermont when my kids were young, and we get up there and like, well, there's no TV, there's no this, there's no that, and you know.
I know they're lost without it, right?
So after about a day and a half, all of a sudden it's like, oh, can we go make s'mores? Can we go hang out in the
opens
canoe?
up a whole world.
And they came home, and it's like they're playing games.
Yeah.
And they didn't want their electronics.
It makes you realize.
And these lessons have carried over, so now when they're raising their kids, just like Lizzie.
Yep.
It's like, you can have your toys, but you know what? We've got family time.
Yeah. All you got to do is put your foot down. And I will say, I'm the softie. She's not. And I mean, my husband was like, dang, what happened to her? She's incredible. What a great parent. I'm like, I know.
And being around them too, it makes us realize, like, you know, because I want to check email and I want to check Teams and I want to do all, you know.
Stuck. Like, I've got this thing,
It's like,
you know, put it away.
exactly, you know, and you do. You just go, I'm putting it away.
Yeah.
You know, you just realize you feel like, I can't either. I got
not
to put
healthy.
it away. They're doing real life.
And all of you, at one point, Mary, you recently retired. You two were still working. How was that dynamic? I don't know if you remember the relationship that you had with your grandparents and the working aspect, but is it tougher to be on a schedule yourself and then, wait a minute, I've got a grandchild, so I've got to help. I want to help. Like, how do you balance that, Christy?
That is the most difficult. It is because, you know, working and then you have a limited amount of time off. You have the responsibilities of the team. It never leaves. And so, you know, to take time off, you have to plan the trip. You have to make sure because they have jobs. They have careers. So you have to balance the time and make sure it's a good time for them, that they can take some time off, and it's a juggling act. You know, the last time we were all together was a wedding in October. Our youngest son, our youngest did the blended in October. And so all of them, you know, were able to get together, and it was chaotic because it was all wedding. But now, you know, like for the September, for baby George that's going to be born in September, we're going to go up 3 weeks later so that we can help out with the 4-year-old and the 2-year-old and just kind of be there for them, and, you know, just take a few days. It's going to be interesting because I'll see clients when I'm there too, and so trying to juggle it all. I look forward to retirement. I do. It's going to be a few years. But, you know, I'm hoping.
I don't know the meaning of that word.
Some of us
can't afford
speak
that
for
when we retire,
yourself.
but-
I want to someday and be able to go around and see them. So I'm glad that I have a set that lives in Nocatee because we do get to spend a lot of time with them. So it's really good.
Yeah, Bruce, you're still working too.
Still working.
I mean,
So when my boys were growing up, I did evening news. So I would go home between shows and grab a quick dinner, so I got to see them then. And then there was a time that I lived out of town after my divorce. Somebody used to watch me when she was younger in Philly.
Yeah. Oh, that was a
and
long time ago,
It
buddy.
was, which makes you old too.
Did you hear that?
She's not old, so
I kind of am.
it had to be someone else.
When I lived out of town during the divorce, I would fly home and I would see them. I dedicated all my weekends and then fly right back. But that's why I actually came back to Florida. I gave up a really good career. Not that it's not been great here, don't misunderstand me, because family was my priority, and I came back to Florida. But when I came here, I was working at a different station. I was working evenings too. Something happened there, and I came here to Channel 4, and my life changed because now with the schedule I work, you know, I've got the better part of afternoons and evenings, which gives me a lot of flexibility, and it allows me to spend more time with family. I may be sleep deprived, I may be exhausted, but it's all worth it because there comes a time when that's all I'll do is sleep. Maybe 6 feet under, but all I'll do is sleep. But I'm happy to say that all that time that I have, you know, it's with the kids and it's with the grandkids, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Right. You know, it's interesting. We laugh, you say 6 feet under, but I wonder, you know, just thinking back to my parents and my kids, we didn't know there was a problem with my parents until there was a problem. They never said anything was wrong. Oh, don't worry, we're fine. Do you ever, those thoughts, do you ever think about whether or not you feel like you're going to be a burden to them when that time comes? You know, they've got kids, they've got lives. Has that ever crossed your mind about do you have a conversation?
What's going to happen?
Yeah,
what's
do you
gonna
have
happen?
a conversation with them? I don't know. How do you handle that?
I know that Lizzie and I have talked about it just kind of, you know, gently a little bit. She'll say, do you think maybe we could have a house? We'll have a house. She goes, we'll have a house and we'll have like a little a mother-in-law suite. And I'm like, well, yeah, I would love to live with you. I don't know if my son-in-law knows this discussion yet, but I love that idea, you know, in the future, far in the future, I hope. I just told her I always have to have like a little, need to be able to see a tree out the window, you know, and then see the kids playing or whatever.
But you've told
But we've
her.
just discussed this briefly. But like you said, our parents never wanted to be a burden, and I never felt that burden of taking care of them. But I lived so far away from my parents, it's 2,000 miles, and my older sister ended up taking care of them at the end. And then, so that was, I kind of feel like I missed out on that part. So I think Lizzie, I think we would love to be together toward the end, and I hope that's the way it works out. I don't want to be a burden though, so you know, hopefully we won't. But I mean, there's just more of a connection in family. I feel like as I'm getting older, and I'm loving and embracing that.
But that's so interesting. You say you felt like you missed out when your parents, like during the end of like I never looked at it that way, and I
Well, my mom said that too. Okay, because again, I'm the youngest of 6, so she had a support system around her in Oregon. But she told me later, I came back when she was dying, and while she was still able to talk, we would chat. She go, well, I told you to move. I told you to move away. And that was when I was 25 to go and do my career. But she said, I always thought you'd come back. So I know, so that was hard.
What do you say to that?
But they didn't miss me terribly because they had 5 other, you know, children around to, you know, who were very, you know, right
But
there
you
with
felt
them.
you missed the
I
experience.
miss them because I love them so much. But you know, you get caught up in your careers, and it's a long distance. Yeah, but I know I wish I'd been a little more involved. But they interesting. The grandparent aspect is with them was they were lovely grandparents, but they didn't get to really do what I'm getting to do, which is be in the trenches with the grandson. They have not had that experience unless they've had it with my sister. I don't think so. You know, taking them places, and they didn't have as much of that. So they loved having us visit, but I don't think they got that day to day, and that's what I'm enjoying, is having more day to day. I think that's, at least I needed that.
Yeah. And so that experience that you felt you missed out on with your parents, do you take that with you and makes it easier to, you know, be okay with being that burden. I keep saying that, but it's not. It's not a burden. I'm
Doesn't
taking
that-
care
she
of my
doesn't
mom,
look.
and it's
Yeah,
not a burden.
you're a wonderful caregiver and just being a part of her life. I agree. I think I'm embracing the fact that my daughter would like to spend more time with me because we went through a period where we didn't really want to be together. I don't think she wanted to be around me. So, but that's, adolescence and stuff. So I'm really loving that. So yeah, I guess yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you either of you think have those thoughts at all?
I think about, when I do get to retire, because I plan on retiring, to be able to have, a place somewhere up in Nashville so that I can kind of, be there, assuming they're going to be there. We're already here, so we're close to Orlando. We can get down there. But yeah, that's a really thought-provoking question because it's like, ooh, you don't really think that far ahead, and all of our parents are still alive.
It doesn't really go to that that far, but
I mean, my parents are still alive. My husband's parents are still alive. My ex-husband's parents are still alive. So we've still got a lot, that in our family. So when we are traveling, we're also trying to incorporate seeing grandparents, great-grandparents, as well as grandchildren.
Do you feel like they're a burden, though? That word always comes up. I never feel that.
It was definitely a transition that they're in a different place where they downsized, and so I think we have learned that. We've recently also downsized, which has really helped kind of all one level. So we're kind of forward thinking on that, of how we can, for the longest, take care of ourselves without any of our kids having to jump in and do it for us, and also put ourselves near and around family that makes the most sense, a quick flight away. But my parents know, because I have brothers that also help, and so they live in Nashville. So, I need to spend more time. I admit it's something I need to prioritize a little better. But with career and work and 7 grandchildren in 4 years, and and weddings and all of those sorts of things, it's been difficult. But I definitely am there for them to help them. But my dad is 82 and he still goes to work every day.
that's incredible.
So,
You have a very vibrant full family.
That would be me.
Yeah, that's
So-
exciting.
yeah.
What about you, Bruce?
Well, first of all, I don't dwell on it.
Yeah.
Even, it's been about a year, a couple months since I had my heart issues, and the kids ask me questions about that.
They do.
Like,
They just flat out
it
ask.
It is what it is. I would not want to impose on them. I'm in a situation where, quite honestly, my wife is a little younger than I, so she'll be there. I would not want to intrude on my kids' families and get in the way of that.
Same.
They've got their own lives. I have insurance that will help take care of that kind of care. I would want them to go on with their lives and not have to worry about it. Jokingly, one of my boys goes, well, we're financially secure enough that we can put you in a good nursing home where they turn you so you don't get bed sores. But
Thanks, honey.
Yeah.
it's a joke.
Comforting.
But they would be there for me. In the 1 or 2 medical situations that have arisen, they were up here in a flash.
Yeah.
To make sure I was okay, and they checked on me. So I have no doubt that they would be there if I needed them, but I wouldn't do that to them.
We never want to
I
put
don't-
that on our
No.
kids. You want them, like you said, you want them to live their lives, and that's what I think. That's where, like, my late mother-in-law definitely would say, I don't want to be a burden. That word would come up, burden. I'm not going to be a burden to you. But you're right. It's not a burden if it's family and we love you and you need care.
Yeah, it was really almost frustrating for me to find out something was wrong with my
Right.
parents, and to know that maybe if I had known a little bit sooner, I could have done
Okay,
something.
I have
You know what
I
mean?
have
Like,
a rule on that in our family about that, because you have got to tell us that there's something wrong. I don't care who you
no
are in the
secrets.
family. I want to know
secrets.
so I can pray for you too, if nothing else. So we can all pray for each other and be supportive and loving, because you need that. But I know I've been there where I don't want to tell anybody what's going on, because my family's pretty big and spread out. But I'm like, no, my daughter-in-law, she had something going on and wasn't going to tell us, or they were just being really cautious about it. And we found out about it, and we're like, come on, we know exactly what you need and where to, and we actually did know exactly what she needed, which is amazing. Because my husband, you know, we have some great connections in the medical community, and she needed to be seen by a specialist, and they didn't know that, and so boom, done. And so we do have a role still, and it kind of gives you a chance to help still, you know? So I think it's so important to be open, and we have that discussion with our kids. They're like, you just got to tell us, you know, let us know. And we're going to tell you too. Although you kind of, I know that feeling. I don't want to burden my kids with something that's going on with me. But I also kind of am like a little baby. I'm the youngest still in our family. And I'll go, Lizzie, I don't feel good. And she's like, oh, God.
But there are different roles that families can play. You know, you're not always saying, well, I'm going to move in with you and I need you to, you know, take care of me and I need you to be there to feed me.
I just want a little support.
But, you know,
emotional.
Because actually, I think when it comes to certain things, your emotional health and your mental well-being is just as important part
You need
of
to be
healing
heard. You need to be
as
heard.
it is to the physical component of it. And if you know a family is there, it goes a long way.
Huge.
So it's important that they do know what's going on and that they're there for you like that. So yes, you want to know that your family's there, short of, you know, moving in lock, stock, and barrel.
Yeah.
Advice. So some of this is great advice. Keep that open line of communication is a huge one. Christy, I don't know. Are there things that you're learning along the way? Because all of your grands are young. Yours too. Holy moly, that's a lot of grands.
That's a lot.
6 and younger. Is that what you don't know?
Yes.
4 and younger.
Four
and younger.
4 and younger. Yes.
So as you're going through this and navigating it yourself, are you picking up on things or saying, oh, you know what, I got to remember that for the next one? Or
Yeah, because we will have more coming from the youngest. The youngest that just got married in October. They'll be following in a few years. So we're going to have quite a brood at some point. The thing I think I'm learning as I'm spending time with each of them individually, and they're so different, is just learning to appreciate the way they're being parented, because it's so different, and their little personalities are so special. In fact, so much so that, and this might be a little, I don't know, strange, I call them end-of-life moments that I'm trying to create for myself.
That you'll embrace.
That I will have, and I literally focus and spend time weekly thinking about those end-of-life moments that I want to keep.
I don't know that I understand.
But no, it's a mindfulness. It's like being mindful of that moment
and
so then you can
tucking it in.
Oh, so you can recall it.
I can recall it, and I'm in control of kind of the thoughts that I want to think about, you know, as I'm falling asleep or as I'm relaxing or as I'm thinking. And, you know, and so as I'm with the grandchildren, there's certain things that, you know, my oldest granddaughter, we went on a vacation went to the beach with them, met them in April, and she is just a handful, and she does not want to go potty because she might miss something. And so she can speak like a 15-year-old. I mean, she's just blah, blah, blah. And we were out at the ocean, all of us, and Papa B, which is, you know, my husband, and she loves hanging out with Papa B. And we were all talking, and they had said she wouldn't go potty this morning. She wouldn't go potty this morning. She's been holding it. And we were all, it was beautiful at the seashore, and the weather was perfect, and we were just, and she was just this angel, and she says, wait, pause the fun. I have to go poop.
I love her.
Pause the fun. And she was like, pause the fun, and we're like,
Pause the fun.
we froze, and she ran off, and I'm thinking, okay, so, and there's another one where my daughter, and I was holding the 3-year-old grandson at the wedding to keep him away from everybody, and it was just this, you know, remembering, and the music, and just holding him, and how special that was. But those are kind of so what I'm learning, the advice is, I'm creating those end-of-life moments, because if I ever get to the point that my memory is not quite the best, or, you know, I want to think about those specifics so I don't forget about those.
Write them down.
Oh, I do.
I was going to say a journal.
Yeah.
So
I have.
my pop-up
And pictures.
my grandfather, my grandfather and my grandmother, they owned this little mom and pop grocery store. And one of my memories as a child was getting on the bus, and then the little train to go to them when I was like 6 years old, because we could do that back then, and going and spending the weekend with them. And I had a little realistic tape recorder back then. I always knew I wanted to be in the media, and I interviewed him.
You
Interviewed him.
Wow.
No.
I still have that tape.
Are you kidding?
And
How do you have that? Hey, that's incredible.
it was sitting in a little box somewhere, and it's in a storage closet now. And we talked about him growing up and some of the things we did together.
That's brilliant.
And stories.
I wish I had done that.
So, yes. So, you know, sit down with your grandkids.
Yes.
And talk about your life together and stories. Because I sit there and I listen to that, and I'm like, oh my God. And he's been, he died when he was younger. I am, like 10 years younger than I am. Both my grandparents died when they were young. But it is so important, and it's a memory that your grandchildren will have and your children will have. And it's not something that you think about, but yeah. My other grandfather wrote a book. And, you know, a copy of that book is given to each of my children and his great-grandchildren about the family legacy. So it's little things that you don't think about that can carry on the family legacy and that they can share with the family. But little stuff that you can do.
And just experiences. That's where I realize when I need to spend more time, I spend more time with him. I just really try to carve that out where we have our own day to go do stuff. And like for the summer, the last day of summer, oh my gosh, did I put those pictures in? I can't remember. Yeah, so we're the last Friday before school starts. So we have a golf cart at home, and we live in this little area where it's got a farm and stuff. So we get on that golf, he goes, "Gara, let's go for a golf cart ride." Okay, he loves to drive it now. Oh boy, yeah, and that's a lot of fun. I know, it's hilarious. And then and he's such a little naturalist, and he wants to go find whatever is outside. We'll go pick up bugs or whatever. He found crabs in a creek that were so cool. They're apparently, I think they're fiddler crabs, and they're weaving. It was so cute. I could never have seen that, you know. And I have it on my phone now. These little videos, these little crabs, and him freaking out. And he will remember that. And I go back to how many times we have gone on our little hunts together. It's just simple little things.
You'll remember that too.
I remember too. So to me, it's a treasure. And then I hold on to those memories. And like you said, when I really need them. And I always say, when I go to the doctor and I have to have some sort of exam or like a shot or some type of procedure, that is where my mind goes. It goes to Marty, because I think of him smiling at me, and then I think of Sebastian and running toward me when he was like 4. He's like, go, get Gaga. And it's just like, that is my happy place. Yeah. So, I mean, it's so, and I think it's reciprocated because I know that he remembers things that we've done together. And yeah, but I'm always going to be your Gaga. Don't forget that.
But you know what?
And you're the first one, so remember.
In a selfish way, these are for us too. And Kristen,
yeah.
You call them end of life moments, but there are life moments. And
Yeah.
for those of us who do what we do, look, without mincing words, we've got some days where we go home and we're like, what the heck
It's
happened?
heavy stuff.
It's
yeah.
heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And we are just like chomping at the bit. It's like, you can't believe some of the stressors that we deal with. Yeah. And I'll sit there and I'll think about some of the things that our kids did or our grandkids did. And it's like my son Tim, his mom would be like, you didn't go to college, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Kid is successful.
But what did he do?
He has a company that's sort of successful.
Yeah.
And he's a dad. And the first time that I saw him just pick up Tate and change a diaper, and I'm like, oh my God, this kid's a great father, and hold this kid and take him around and smile and be so proud of being a dad. When life's moments get to me, not end of life moments, and I want to smile, I think about, oh my God, this kid's just a great dad. And when he sings to him and he holds him, or when Greg and Sherry with Atlas, or Jeff and Jecca are with Asher, or when Asher introduces Christy. So we were out at Washington Oaks State Park one day, and Asher starts getting swept away in the water, and Lolly jumps in and gets him. And he introduces everyone, this is Lolly, she saved my life.
Oh my gosh.
And he was like 2 and a half at the time.
Incredible.
These are things that when I'm worried about life and what's
That's real.
That's real, and it puts a smile on my face.
Yeah.
Or at 2:30, 2:45 in the morning, and I'm driving to work, I'm You know, I think of these things that put a smile on my face and more importantly in my heart, and I'm like, that's what's important.
Right.
How blessed are we to be able to have this role, though there are plenty of people, and some of my friends who they might not ever get to be grandparents, you know, and some of my siblings too.
Yeah.
So I'm just like so grateful.
Yeah.
So grateful.
I am too.
It's a beautiful time of life. Tom Wells said it. He goes, "Oh, it is the icing on the cake of life." Grandkids. I mean, he's the one who he had them first, and he was like, "Oh," and his kids are beautiful too. So, I mean, we're so lucky, blessed.
Wow.
And the kids say the darndest things. So Asher and Addie.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we were FaceTiming the other day, and thank goodness the kids are spread out, right?
Yeah.
Thank goodness we don't want them to spend a lot of time on the devices, but when they're spread out, this is how we can communicate with them.
Yep.
So Asher and Addie, who's his sister, are sitting there, and we're talking, and I said, so Asher, you know what? You know, you're going to come up, spend some time with us, and we'll go to the beach and this and that. And he says, well, you know, I'll be away from mommy and daddy, and blah, 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 blah. Okay. So then about 5 minutes later, FaceTime goes off again, and he says, I got to whisper. They were sitting right here. I didn't want them to miss me, but I'll come up and see them.
Oh, I love that.
That's so great. You guys are making
Natural
me
negotiator.
I'm like looking forward to this. Good
Wise.
grief.
They're wise.
6 years old. He's like 30.
Creatures. Awesome.
I can't believe the things that come out of their mouth. It's like,
Me too.
I look at him and I go, wow, how old are you? It's amazing.
It's a different perspective.
Wisdom.
Wow. Well, I mean, I'm excited to be there talking to you all, but not yet because they're only
it's not
13
time.
and 12.
It's not time.
So,
They do start earlier these days.
hey,
Not if you wait
They're
for them.
starting later. They're
cheers to
starting
grandparents, right?
Goodness.
Cheers. This is your drink. Cheers to grandparents.
are we?
Cheers.
Cheers.
We do just have water in here, right?
Sure.
Yeah, it's just pure